As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner YouGov offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more. Let me bring up some data here, Ben, and I'll let you introduce the slide or the image,
Sure.
and then we can discuss it. But the first one here, I don't know if this is big enough. Let me see if I can make this.
While you do that, I have to put on my data cap. Now we're ready to get started.
There you go. So talk us through this first one here, Ben.
Yeah. So this is looking at February of this year versus last year. Proportion of esports fans versus the general U.S. 18 to 34-year-old population versus all U.S. adults who say that they are likely or very likely to use cryptocurrency in the next 12 months. So this is point in time data. And we're sort of looking at February from 2021. And this is like I did it the exact same week. So it's like the last weekend of February, and each data point represents a rolling 52-week period up to that date. So let's start with like all Americans. 11% of all Americans this time last year, about a month ago last year, said that they were likely or very likely to use crypto in the coming year. And that has improved to 19%. So it's that's a pretty big increase in and of itself, and very insightful for just all Americans. But then look just at the scale of adoption among esports fans. It was 3x a year ago, and now it's like it's not quite 3x anymore, but it's almost half of U.S. esports fans are likely to use cryptocurrencies, and I think that's it says it all right there. I mean, even compared to like young people think that crypto is just a young person's thing. Well, yes, it is. The data shows that as well. 18 to 34-year-olds really over-index compared to 18 plus, but esports fans still are much higher.
I mean, that's super interesting, right? Especially for the crypto companies, because what it says is like the average 25-year-old who's not an esports fan, like just the picked at random, is less likely to be an adopter of your technology, of your product, than if you picked an esports fan of any age, right? And I think what's interesting here is the curves also, like the proportion of esports fans who are likely to use cryptocurrency. Not only is it almost double, or more than double, almost 2.5 times the U.S. total, but it's growing faster, right? Like this adoption rate, the curve is steeper, which I think is interesting. Kevin has a question here. He says, what is your definition of used cryptocurrency, Ben? There's still not a lot of options for using it in the market besides as an investment tool from what I've seen.
Yeah, it's a good question. The way that the question is asked, it is to make investments or to make an online purchase is the specific language of the question. So we do have as like a way to invest your money included in the statement.
And Tom says, is likely to use the same as has used? Is that number a lot lower?
It is not the same. And that number would be a lot lower. And I think something that I shared with you that we might be getting to in a little bit was people who have that was specific to NFTs. So no, it's not. I don't have the question or the data here about people who have actually used crypto to make a purchase of good.
The good news is, if that's a study that you're interested in, if you're listening, you work at a crypto company, that's the kind of study that Ben and the folks at YouGov can absolutely put together, and the kind of data they can put together. So very cool. Let's move on to the second slide here. Let me make this a bit bigger. Hang on. So Ben, why don't you introduce this one?
Yeah. So the next few, we're sticking on the blockchain theme. So we did some crypto. We're looking at some metaverse statements here, and these were news statements added to YouGov. And just to be clear, Paul's exactly right. We can run custom research and things like Tom's question of has used being something we'd have to kind of go back and dig into with a custom survey of some sort, a simple one. All this data is that we're sharing here and in these charts are things that we are continuously collecting. So every week we're getting fresh data on what percentage of the people in our data set have agreed to these statements. And so I've defined here the first 4 bars on the left there are gamer identities. So someone who's not a gamer versus all the way up to someone who identifies as a hardcore gamer. And we see that, the percentage of people who say they're confident that they understand what the metaverse is, fourfold if they're a hardcore gamer. Over 80% of hardcore gamers feel confident they understand what the metaverse is versus 27% of non-gamers and a third of people who are identified as casual gamers. And as we move along to the right, we see esports fans, no surprises, esports fans, and you'll see through those charts, they line up very closely with that core, mid-core, hardcore gamer identity bucket. And no category for ready for player one. It's a good question, Adam. You can do it. Absolutely. And then I was just thinking like other things that would be interesting to call out. So game stream viewers, and that's a gaming behavior, but we know that there's a spectrum of like casual play to hardcore play to being an esports fan to watching someone else play online. And there are different behaviors or different audiences. And in general, we see with the metaverse and cryptos too, the game stream viewer audience is quite big. I think it's bigger than the hardcore gamer group as like a population size. But they kind of run the spectrum of being casual gamers or non-esports fans and so on. So and they're pretty in line with the general population or general 18 to 34 year olds because so many 18 to 34 year olds are game stream viewers. So just over half of those two groups say they feel confident they understand what the metaverse is. And if we look at all American adults, which is that last bar on the right, about 4 in 10 feel confident. We'll be keeping a pulse on this every week moving forward. So be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that stand out to me. I also want to point out what Tom noticed here, but before I get to those two things, I think it would be fascinating is coming back to this exact same question, like 6 months from now, 12 months from now, to see how well the things that we consider massively hyped become understood by the sort of the general population and the gaming population. Tom here says that's amazing that 27% of non-gamers say they are confident that they understand what the metaverse is. I mean, that is a relatively high number. I think it speaks to just how like you can't turn anything on, not TV or any social media and not hear about metaverse in some capacity, right? Do you guys not think that's probably why? Just how much it's out there, Lindsay?
Oh yeah, I feel like that's super accurate. I mean, it's so hard because I think about all the different social medias I interact with, and certainly it's huge in the Twitter sphere. Like every single Twitter space I've ever seen is about the metaverse, I swear. And then it's huge on LinkedIn. Every person who talks about crypto, has crypto, is talking about Web3 and development of the metaverse is on there. So it's like there's huge subsections of the population that are just interacting with this type of content. I mean, Facebook changing its name like that.
Yeah.
That was a huge lead in as well. So I'm not surprised that number is basically a quarter of people.